Joining me now via Skype from Kyiv is Timofiy Mylovanov. He is an advisor to President Zelensky and a former Minister of Economic Development and Trade in Ukraine. So we have seen these horrific scenes in Bucha, but you've been saying you expect even worse to emerge in other places.
Yes, we have eyewitness accounts from a different area through teachers that we know personally who taught pupils, and then now some of them are young ladies, others are adults, in northeast of Kyiv. Bucha is in northwest. It's on a different bank of Dnieper River. And there is a different direction, Brovary, which also has been recently liberated. The network of villages is slightly different there. It's more, they are remote and smaller, several houses. So here's an example from Velika Dimerka. A young boy, had a Molotov cocktail found in his house. So Russians took this cocktail, poured over his head, and burned him alive. Another person from a different village reports a number of young females raped and executed. And yet another village, it's difficult to say. I know some of these people, so please, I'm sorry.
No, I understand. Carry on.
Another village, and we lost control with that village. People reported, and again, this all has to be documented. That is not just my words. This is all at this point alleged and reported. But I know some of these people, and so they were calling, and that Russian troops took all food away and prohibited people from exiting houses and village to find food, and everyone who tried was shot. And we lost the contact with that village.
These are horrific stories, and as you say, they need to be documented. They need to be used as evidence in whatever war crimes tribunals are set up. I wanted your reaction, though, because Russia says it's fake news, that the scenes in Bucha essentially were staged or faked. I mean, what do you and the president you advise say to that?
Well, Russia is lying, and everyone has seen it. And these are the areas which were under their control. And, everyone, that's been documented on social networks by their soldiers, that they control this. It's been geotagged. It's been, there's no single fact that shows that Ukrainian troops or anyone was in those villages. Ukrainian troops, of course, resisted and disrupted supply lines, but these specific remote areas, my wife's mother is from that village, from one of the villages, and she was receiving calls daily, so I know it for a fact that Russian troops were there. And, she works in a hospital, and a nurse from that hospital was executed, shot by Russians, and they shot her nephew, a young boy, a grandkid, like grandson. And then they shot her. And, my wife's mother is just devastated. What can I say to that? I mean, it's just, it's a disease. It's a Russian disease. I don't know. It's wrong. It's not humanity anymore. That's what I say to it.
How might what's unfolding here, this evidence that you're talking about, and which our teams have seen with their own eyes, how might that impact talks or the possibility of talks with Russia? I mean, Mr. Zelensky says Bucha makes it difficult to negotiate with Russia. Russia has said pretty much the same thing. How does that complicate the chance of talks?
I think we will negotiate for peace. We are just worried that Russia does not do that in good faith, and it just uses this tactic to delay, to regroup, and to come up with counterattack. And we have seen that done since 2014 in Minsk I and Minsk II talks, where, I've been in some of these groups also. I have not been on negotiation teams when I was in the government and later when I was advising. The way they do it, just before the negotiations, they step up pressure, military pressure. That's their understanding, or that's their logic of pressuring people. So they always negotiate from the position of power. They try to, if you remember Minsk 1 and Minsk 2, how they worked, they were negotiated after there were decisive losses for Ukrainian military in Debaltsevo and Ilovaisk.
Yeah.
And I think what has to happen in Ukraine, at least that's what, that's what Russia is planning on. And they were trying to do it with Kyiv. That didn't work. Now they're trying to do it with Mariupol and the east of Ukraine, and that's not working.
Yeah.
But really inflict a massive losses on Ukrainian side that Ukraine surrenders. So they negotiate from the position of power. But I think that's not going to be the case this time. My heart goes out to those people who will not see the day when it's over.
Yeah, and you're right. I mean, Ukrainians are not giving in at all. That as a tactic is not working, but it's costing a lot of lives. I mean, you and I last spoke when I was in Lviv, and we talked about economic damage being done to your country. When it comes to pressuring Russia, sanctions and so on, sanctions, of course, take time to work. What can be done in an economic sense that would have an immediate impact?
Two types of sanctions. One is that everyone is talking about. They are sort of conventional sanctions because they work across the economy. But, even today, Russia earns, $300 million a day on oil and gas. And essentially, it continues to be profitable. So it can run, forever. So unless there is gas and oil embargo, nothing is going to really work in Russia as a sanction. And I know it's really costly for the Western politicians, but Ukraine has gone through this. We also were subsidized. And we also, for decades, were getting, good deals in gas from Russia. See where it got us? And I think, that's a false hope to believe that somehow you can manage with Russia and find the middle ground, with the economy. You just have to cut off. And sooner you do it, better it is. And also it's ethically and morally proper. And then there is high precision sanctions. Those can work faster. This is sanctions on critical imports, which are required for Russia to be able to operate military equipment, modernize it or repair it. So example is as recent as several weeks ago, Bosch was supplying heating equipment, I think, to the tanks. And some of French companies were supplying high precision equipment. And, the amount of money on those contracts they're really small, like, 100 million euros over a year or two. So Russia would be able to afford it, but it's that critical equipment that allows them to use high precision weapons to bomb Ukrainian cities. And I think that has to stop.
Timofiy Mylovanov, an advisor to President Zelensky, also an economist in his own right. Good to speak to you again, and hope you're doing well. Thanks so much.
Thank you.